a body who wants to participate in the ecosystem. And this event today is also part of this participation, of this listening to the ecosystem. And we are very happy to have you here. Full houses in Lisbon and Porto to participate. Please be active. Your questions are very important to us. We have for that an interesting and very interesting panel moderated by Marcela, a known journalist from ECO, one of the reference media, economic media in Portugal. And we have the pleasure also to host Alexandre Mendes, Head of Ventures from Subvisual, Toni Barreiros from Fundão Municipality. And why Fundão? Because they are really active in making things easier for startups and entrepreneurship there. They are a case study in Portugal as a municipality helping startups and entrepreneurs to succeed. So Alexandre Mendes and Toni Barreiros will be from Porto, and we'll have in Lisbon Milana, Dovzhenko from startup Bairro, and also Marcela here moderating. I am so happy to also announce that today we signed with Fundão Municipality MOU with Startup Portugal and Fundão that sets a new competitive benefits, fiscal benefits for startups that are registered in the municipality of Fundão. So we have in Portugal kind of a surplus tax for companies that municipalities can manage. It's their responsibility to manage. And for startups that are incorporated in Fundão, they will not apply that tax in tax for companies. We call that derrama municipal. And so for startups that are incorporated in Fundão, we have this excellent news that they will have additional tax benefits for corporate tax. And also we have in this MOU said additional advantages, fiscal advantages also for workers in those companies. And so this is the second municipality that is signing this type of MOUs with Startup Portugal, or São João da Madeira a couple of weeks ago already did it. And we are studying with a lot of other municipalities the possibility of spreading these benefits that come from the field, that come from these local structures in order to give additional advantages, namely fiscal advantages for startups. So thank you, Fundão. I'm sure that Toni Barreiros will talk a little bit about that in the panel. He will participate in the panel, but it's super important, this movement that we are seeing from directly municipalities wanted to help startups in the areas that they manage regarding fiscality and regulation that they set locally for helping startups and entrepreneurs. Our investment partner today is Iberis Capital. So welcome, Iberis Capital. Please, everybody that is startup or entrepreneur or that wants to set new ventures in Portugal and wants to count with a professional investor helping, please contact the Iberis Capital that is here represented at this hangout today. And that's it. This were the initial remarks. We will start now before the panel with the usual warm-up pitches. And today we will have lever techs and link side tech. But for this part, I will call to the stage Nuno Moreno, as usual, to talk to you about this part of our hangout. Thank you very much, and please enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Hello there in Porto. I hope everyone is having a really nice day. I know it's Monday. We usually do this on Wednesdays, but you surely are in very good hands. The two startups pitching are really nice. The people for the panel, really smart. And for sure, today we are here together to discuss how to craft a roadmap for our ecosystem. And the players, our guests today, are very good and have been actively involved in this, so we're definitely going to learn a lot. Also, the two startups that we are grateful enough to have with us today are very interesting and are working directly on how to help, on one hand, government and public companies to address these issues, be a little bit more nimble, move faster, move better, and on the other hand, helping startups save money or have more resources to do their own work. Since we're having here Iberis Capital, can I see the hands up in Porto? Who's here representing so that everyone knows? In Porto? No? Who's there? No? Ah, they're shy. Okay. And here in Lisbon? Who's here from Iberis Capital? Okay, also shy. No worries, we'll continue. So okay, I had the pointer in my hand. I left it here. Amazing. Okay, Bernardo Seixas, are you ready? Okay, so I'm going to call out the first startup here. LeverTax is a startup helping other startups save thousands of euros on taxes. So please, Bernardo Seixas, co-founder and CEO at LeverTax, the stage is yours, and I'm sure you're going to do an amazing work. Thank you.
Do I have the... Oh, perfect. Hi, guys. Good to be here. So, as the old saying goes, there are only two certain things in life, death and taxes. And while we can't help with the first, we can definitely help your company save money on your taxes. So there's this thing called Research and Development Tax Credits, R&D credits for short. This is the government's way of rewarding companies that build cool stuff. So if a company is either creating the next groundbreaking vaccine, an AI that is changing the art world, or just a new way to make ice cream, they are doing R&D. And so they can save a huge amount of money in taxes. How does it work? First, a company needs to check if they are actually eligible to claim these R&D tax credits. Then they have to calculate how much they can get. Then they have to apply to get those tax credits. And finally, once approved, they can discount the tax credits on taxes over profits, discount them every month in Social Security, or wait until the end of the year to get them in cash. This sounds great, right? But well, there's a catch. Getting these credits is not that easy. So what's the problem? The application process. It is very time consuming. It can take more than 50 hours to prepare an application. Additionally, it requires a certain level of know-how that small companies usually don't have. This forces them to hire outside consultants that charge high upfront fees. Finally, and perhaps more importantly, the opportunity that is lost by not applying. Thousands of companies are paying too much taxes. And on average, an SME can save 100,000 euros every year by applying to R&D tax credits. The bottom line is this: without a better application process, companies will continue to lose thousands of euros to taxes every year. Well, not anymore. We are LeverTax. We enable small companies to leverage R&D tax credits by simplifying and cutting application costs through AI. 3 simple steps. First, a company can go into our platform and needs to give us some information, some customer inputs, stuff like company data, employee data, R&D expenses, stuff like that. Then we have our first draft of the R&D tax credit application. Finally, this draft is reviewed by tax credit experts that guarantee their quality and submit it directly to the government. We launched our platform in March, and since then we've only finished 6 applications, but this translates into 363,000 euros in tax savings for our clients, so around 60K per client. This translates for us in 5K in revenue upfront and 14K pending approval. And this is just the beginning. The current valuation of the R&D tax credit market is $68 billion. But this is just the tip of the iceberg when compared with the thousands of other funding opportunities that exist and that we can apply our technology to. Stuff like European funding or even startup voucher. And we are the team to do it. My name is Bernardo Seixas. I am the CEO and I have more than 5 years of B2B sales experience. And I've been running my own startup since university. Bernardo Tavares is our CTO and tech wizard. He has more than 9 years of professional programming experience. And he was actually the CTO of another fintech startup here in Portugal. And these 3 very nice people are the people that are guiding us to achieve our vision. They have seen companies go through this pain multiple times. So when we shared our vision with them, their enthusiasm and support couldn't be better. We are raising our seed round in about 6 months, so please reach out to us. Thank you. We are Levertex.
We can listen from Porto. Big success in both cities. And Bernard, so if you want to save thousands of euros in taxes, lever.tax. And now without further delay, I want to call from Porto, the CEO and co-founder of Links AI, a data-driven platform that makes ESG investment more efficient. So please welcome to the stage, Tiago Freire de Andrade.
Hi everyone. So yes, I'm Tiago. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Links AI. So we'll have the presentation probably, but we work on ESG. So ESG is environment, social, and governance. Maybe I have to click one. Yep. Oh, they're already seeing it. Yep. Okay. So what's happening in the ESG market? ESG, environment, social, and governance. So let's be honest. This is happening in all the big companies around Europe, United States, especially these continents, and the ESG is getting bigger and bigger, probably because of regulations, yes, especially in Europe. But the United States, for example, is very political. The ones that vote on Democrats are really into environment and where to put their money. The others are against it. So very interesting to see what will happen in the near future. In Europe, it's a bit different, as you know, everything about regulations. And that's what we work also. So what's happening in the ESG market, I think 2 years ago when we started this, all the asset managers in investment banks, we're talking about the financial institutions, they promised to put 1/3 of all assets under management in ESG. So we're talking about 50 trillion around this, okay? So they said, okay, we need to put this until 2025. They signed all the Net Zero Banking Alliance, they signed the PRIs. Well, we have a lot of organizations, fortunately, to put this. And meanwhile, many things happened worldwide, as you know, not only the war now that's also pushed a lot for energy, sustainable energy in Europe, it's a big thing now, but also the pandemic, etc. So environment, social, and governance are more and more important. So what we are doing is working specifically on this market. So this market is huge. A lot of companies are going for this market already. What's happening especially is they are going for companies. So big companies that need reports, that need control of everything that is happening, that need to then influence even maybe their investors to invest on them. They need a lot of consultants. They are getting a lot of consultants, big businesses coming. What we are doing is going for the financial institutions and helping them manage their portfolios, okay? So not looking at one company one by one, but looking at 5,000 companies, 30,000 companies at one time and seeing, well, maybe you should be careful with this specific company because they are not aligned with our goals on ESG. So that's why, and of course, we are proud of our team. We are already 7, exactly. So everything has been turning on, transforming and building the product, which is, of course, takes time. We are not a consultant, but everyone is working really hard. And we started in Portugal. Suddenly we realized, okay, Portugal doesn't have a lot of clients on this area, financial institutions, I mean. You probably count by the fingers on your hand. So yes, United States is really big. So we got in an acceleration program in San Francisco. And from then on, everyone is like, okay, they are serious then. So really important for us to get into that. And then we realized Luxembourg is the 2nd biggest country in terms of number of funds, bigger than London. So what's happening is everyone in the world, the London guys, the American guys, Singapore, Hong Kong, all have their subsidiary in Luxembourg. Because if they want to invest in European Union, they have there. They are not there, but they have then the management companies working with them. So that's why we went there, and we have a subsidiary there also when we work with a lot of clients there. And that's why asset managers, investment funds, and investment banks are basically our target, okay? And yes, this is Luxembourg. So basically everything happens in Luxembourg about this, especially bureaucracies and regulations. So it's probably what we want also to attack. So we are co-creating with a lot of big guys. They are really open. So especially, for example, here in Portugal, to talk with one of the big guys, you really need to get into them. In Luxembourg, no, everyone is a big guy there. And they are like a corner. It's like a street only. So the small street, you can actually go talk to them. They respond to actually answer to your LinkedIn messages. So we are co-creating with big guys because of this. So yeah, that's been very good. So 3 main problems: regulations, data from different sources, to not be greenwashed, especially if you want to go to one source, it's very easy for the company to influence you. Oh no, we are good, okay? And then reliability, of course. We work on this, of course. We do all the ESG regulations. We're talking about big names, EU taxonomy. I don't know if you know this, but EU taxonomy, SFD are big, ugly names. And we do these regulations for the asset managers, which is a pain in the ass for them. But then what we are doing, let's focus on that. We go to not only the reports, the consultants do the reports for the clients, but then if you go to ESG, you want to go to all the stakeholders of the company. Everyone, employees, communities, clients, everyone that is around the big company should be listened to by investors. So what we do is going to Twitter, going to all the news, going to Reddit, going to Glassdoor. Very important to know the employee's opinion. And we connect and build a profile around each company. And then we identify red flags, we identify sentiment analysis around everything that is happening, and all the rest that is necessary. So yeah, in terms of positioning of our competitors also, positioning, what is really important is most of them are on a yearly basis. So you want a report for your client on a yearly basis, is this good or not, okay? You look at TAP, maybe on the report is really good, but throughout the year, well, be careful with that, right? You need to know everything, right? So what we do is trying to be as real-time as possible, as live as possible, even though, of course, it gets up and downs and the investors may not do anything about that. They need to know about this, okay? And then the number of data sources, okay? Most of them are only reports, which is the official, okay? This is official. They should not lie on the reports in terms of CO2 emissions, obviously. But then what happens throughout the year, you only know this by having other data sources. So institutional news, of course, you always trust on this verifiable news. But then what we differentiate is big data and social media. Maybe not in Portugal so much, maybe not even in Luxembourg, let's be honest, but in the United States, Twitter, it's a major thing, Reddit's a major thing. Yeah, Twitter is actually good. He's talking about this. He's always talking about that Twitter knows everything about the companies, right? Well, let's see. We have to pay now because of him. So let's see the problems about that. And then, of course, Glassdoor. Glassdoor is actually very useful to understand what's happening around companies. So yeah, we work on this path, and what we want is to build profiles around company. Look, our mission is to change billions from non-ESG to ESG, but to do that with actual data, with data from all the stakeholders. Okay, so not being greenwashable, not being influenced by one report or by a score, which is usually what happens, but to actual data and to look for even opportunities, financial opportunities. So yeah, that's what we do. And of course, we are now getting bigger and bigger in product developed, and now with the first clients and POCs, so great moment. And yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tiago. Very good pitch. It was 3 minutes, but nobody's counting. It's okay. It's okay. So if you're a big guy, even if you're not in Luxembourg, or a big girl with a big fund and you want to invest more efficiently in sustainable products, talk with them, Tiago, linksai.tech. And now we're going to the panel. We have a very good panel today, and the goal is to answer, where do we aspire to be as an entrepreneurial ecosystem? How can we craft a better ecosystem, more founder-friendly, to really hope and help us and assist companies grow and be successful? And I would like to invite here first in Lisbon, Milana Dovzhenko, co-founder and the head of product of Bairro. Please, the stage is yours. Now, from Porto, Mr. Toni Barreiros, architect at the Municipality of Fundão and the manager and coordinator of the innovation area. Please clap for him. If anyone here has never been to Fundão, please go there. We were there in March with all the incubators and accelerators, and they were really, really, really nice. They're doing a great job and definitely a great example for any other municipalities around the country. Also from Porto, Mr. Alexandre Mendes, ecosystem builder and head of ventures at Subvisual. And now the lady that will be in charge and moderating the whole conversation, please welcome to the stage Ana Marcela, editor at Echo. Ana, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you for your welcoming. I'll just start with the questions because we have a very tight schedule, and the idea is at the end of the conversation we will open to the public so you can ask some questions and share your views about the ecosystem. So I'll start with Toni Barreiros. I have to see people. Toni, are you listening?
Hello. Yeah. Okay.
I'll start with you. As you know, there's a new startup law. And when it was published, the law by the president, he mentioned that it's the application of the new startup law will show the need to change it rapidly. Do you share this view? What do you think could be improved in this new startup law?
Yes, I think that we will have to look the law 1 or 2 years from now. This relatively new paradigm in Portugal, for example, in Brazil, Brazil was way ahead, and there before this is a work in progress. And like in Fundão, we started 10 years ago, and we are not doing everything like we are doing in the beginning. So we have learned on the way, and we have adapted, and we have now a system that is a reference in Portugal. So I think in the future we can maybe change something about the startup name, the entrepreneur name. They are new words in Portugal. So like I say, I think.
So you think there's
we want to talk about in the few years we're gonna talk about the startup and this name. Yeah. Okay,
Alexandre, can you hear me? Sorry. I asked you the same question. There's a new startup law. Do you feel there's some aspects that could be improved? And let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is the stock options situation. Do you feel, or you share the same views as some unicorns who said that this tax benefit was not for scale-ups and this was a wasted opportunity? Do you share this view? Do you feel there's room to be improvements? So can you share your thoughts on this?
Okay. Hello. It's Monday afternoon, so let's start on a positive note. We all need that. It's great that we are having this discussion, and finally that there's a cornerstone law that somehow plays a role in establishing a common ground and discussing these topics about startups. We really thought about this for a while now. And to be straight, yes, I agree. We have a lot to improve, but it's always easier to improve than starting from scratch. Ever since I got here to the venue, I already heard several contributions to the law that actually make me think that we are already running to start iteration 2 or V2, like we say in the startup world. But then again, I would stress that it's easier to improve than starting over and making a never-ending discussion around it. Like you said, there are several criticisms that were really quick, both from other founders and also from investors. We need to pay some attention to it. and actually decide what kind of role do we want this law to play. It's not only about creating benefits, it's not only about small nudges, but then again, I think that we have to have in mind that we are competing globally. So we need to be at times more assertive and even aggressive if we want to keep up with other countries and other ecosystems. And this is what I see as a possibility for the V2 of this coming law, that as a community, we should all keep gathering contributions so that we make sure that V2 is actually happening and actually happening on a time frame that is usable for us.
Okay, thank you. Milana, same question for you. Alexandre, as mentioned, the V2 for the startup law. What sort of features do you think should be addressed in that V2?
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. First of all, I have 3 points to add. I think it's a really cool thing that there were people dedicated to make this law working with governments, and so much work have been done. It's a very big step for the ecosystem as a whole. However, I would like to add 3 features. First of all is simplify the tax procedures. We have to enhance tax regulations and procedures to reduce and one of the biggest pain have been the administrative burdens for the startups. It's extremely not a seamless experience to come and understand how a startup can get the incentives, what are the regulations working. So I believe we also have to work on creating one point, a central point where all the startups could come and address all the questions, all the issues, how can they get these incentives, how they can get these regulations, what is the new law of the startups happening in Portugal, and of course to show to other European countries that Portugal is working on that, it's getting better, and help to bring growth funds also here in Portugal, and to try to get contributions not only from inside Portugal, but also from outside Portugal to help the ecosystem grow and empower bigger companies from the scale-up world.
Okay. The next issue is about talent. There's a lot of talk about how to engage people to come to Portugal. There's not enough people, for the ecosystem. There's also this idea we want to become some sort of a unicorn country instead of just a startup country. Well, actually, before the unicorn, a scale-up country. So how can we do that? Do you feel that the features like the visas for digital nomads or work visas are enough, or you have to do a lot more to attract people to come to Portugal and stay?
Portugal is an amazing country to bring top talent to here because we have a very accessible lifestyle. We have an amazing sun and food, and the people are so culture givers, and you feel so well received in Portugal. What helped Bairro, our company, a lot to bring talent to Portugal was the NHR program. So this was a really cool program to bring the top industries from our business core to Portugal. And the digital nomads visas are fine, but I believe it's not enough. So we not only have to attract talent inside with new incentives and how it can be, first of all, legalization is a big topic because everything in Portugal is so bureaucratical, and to legalize in Portugal it's very painful and it's very manual. We have to create digitalized tools to make this process so seamless that they think, oh my God, Portugal is so efficient, I love it. So we can attract more and more people and to put ourselves as unicorn capital of very developed systems. So we have to work on that all as a community and to invest in this site.
Alexandre, you're not headquartered in Lisbon. Do you feel that these new work visas are working for you as a company? As you know, the government has launched also a kind of a fiscal benefit for people, nomad digitals. They want to work, outside Lisbon and Oporto on the countryside. Does this help, or as Milana said, you feel it's so bureaucratic that it doesn't work?
Yes, there is a tech scene outside Lisbon and Porto, and it's working. I think that the discussion that we should have here is talent influx is happening like never before to Portugal. Do we want to be intentional about captivating this talent to stay here, to build here, and to scale from here or not? But sadly, somehow, we are still at a most simple step. We need to make CEF work again. The amount of people waiting for a reply nowadays, it must be disturbing for all of us. Well, I'm Portuguese, so I'm privileged in that sense. But what about our friends that are coming from abroad, regardless of the country where they are flying from? We need to make sure that that is actually happening. I love the sentence that Milana said, "Oh my God, Portugal is so efficient. I love it." So we don't need anything else. We just need to capture this quote and work to make this happen. Make Portugal an efficient country. And fun fact, this can even become a vertical for new founders. So lots of founders here know how to build tools that will enable things and know how to scale tools that will make things more efficient and even how to make it more usable. So why not give this first sign and open up a vertical where we actually start buying tools that will make Portugal easier, better. And then again, for the talent topic, I would like to come back to my early thing of this is already happening. Let's wake up. Look at our cities. People are moving in, and this is a good thing. So right now, we need to make sure that we are listening to those people and making sure that we are allocating resources to solve problems that they actually have. Building startups from Portugal is a great idea because this is a country that plays a role really useful and tactic in what comes to be a platform for the rest of the Europe and actually for the US too, depending on where you're coming from. So having this idea of a country that performs as a platform, this is a big idea. So now we need to make it work. And it's funny that we Portuguese talk how our Braga, Viana, Fundão, Évora are from big cities, but from people coming from other countries, this is actually feasible. And we need to accept that there's people that prefer to live in these cities, regardless of the big cosmopolitan cities too. So my point is, what if this is already happening and we are not making all the enough effort to capture people here and to capture on the best positive way possible? Making, like Milana said, people falling in love by our efficiency, by our energy, and our focus in making things happen. Then again, there are countries worldwide trying to listen to people and giving up on that grandpa point of view of being really stiff and deciding new regulations to welcome people on board. Having said this, I can't help but asking, what do we fear in helping startups? Treating startups on a different way, it seems that we want to give incentives so that people can start their companies here, but then we don't entirely acknowledge how different a startup is and the amount of resources that they need and the pace that these startups need to actually work. So to sum up, I would go to capture talent, we need to make our institutions work, and we need to be mindful of pace. I've met too many founders moving to Portugal in the last quarter that sadly, CEF didn't reply on time and they are now leaving.
Well, that's that's sad to hear. But Toni, in Fundão, we heard from Antonio, from Startup Portugal, that there's an MOU to give, picking up on Alexandre's words, what startups need. In this case, from what we understood, is fiscal benefits to headquarter their startups in Fundão. Can you share a bit more about what you are planning for Fundão? And especially, do you feel this is the way to go, or there's much to be done on the central government?
Yeah, let's try. My English is not so good, but I'm gonna try do this question better the first one. I'm gonna share work we are doing in Fundão in this moment. They talk about nomads, digital nomads, and new people to the territory, this interior of Portugal, like Fundão. We are working in the new project. We would like to startups, young people, looking for Fundão and see Fundão like an experience. We are building new buildings, new spaces, new co-work spaces, new incubator spaces with different architectures, interior architectures. In the for example, we have in this moment we are building a capsule. Is going to be a capsule, a co-work space in the mountain, like our mountain. It's Garduña Mountains. It's nearby Serra da Estrela also, where we have the snow. And I think to bring people, not just for Fundão, but for Portugal, we need to make different. We have a great country, we have great nature, and in Fundão we are working with this resource. So we don't have a lot to offer. We don't have much other cities like Lisbon or Porto. We are a small town, so we must be creative and looking for some different answers from the same problems. And I think this is why we talk a lot about Fundão. This is why Fundão is an opportunity at the moment, because people come and have different experience. I don't know if this is the the right answer. We have also, like Antonio have said in the beginning of the session, we have with Startup Portugal create a protocol to bring startups to Fundão in the same how we say conditions of other projects. So we have create some benefits like housing for everybody. We have a team dedicated just for this kind of work. We support all the people comes to Fundão when he arrives looking for a house. If they have kids, looking for a school for the kids, and we have one team dedicated just to this job. This is one of the different things we do. We have fiscal incentives, but also other places have the same. But I think we make some difference. It's about the teams, about the people, and the teams working in this ecosystem of Fundão.
Okay, thank you, Milana. Toni has explained a bit about how they are working to attract, startups and digital nomads to Fundão. Do you feel is this kind of measures, fiscal measures, but also housing for everybody, which is in Lisbon is kind of I don't know, oasis. It's not really happening for everybody. do you feel these are the kind of things that could attract, more startups for places like Fundão or the other territories besides Lisbon and Oporto? As you know, it's like 90% of the ecosystem.
I actually very impressed with what was happening in Fundão. I wasn't aware, and I believe this is very interesting to help teams from unicorns to come and to start to go to rural areas, because as Alexandre told, not everyone wants to live in the center city. And of course, with the economy growing, with more startups coming, more digital nomads coming, the economy is growing, and Lisbon is getting tougher. So this is an incredible opportunity to make such hubs inside Portugal to help the rural regions also to evolve and give some maybe incentives and support, but truly support. Essentially, again, I want to come back to another topic with legalization. We need to another CEF, but we don't need another CEF. We need this CEF 5.0 with this manual bureaucratic side, because I personally know investors who are more than 1.5 years waiting for an answer. And when we say we need to bring startups and investors and talent, but that staff doesn't respond, neither to the families, to reunite with the families, it's difficult to create these amazing measures as we're doing in Fundão, and then don't giving a response to other problems like bringing them there. I actually have a joke that sometimes even while investors and founders are waiting for their visas for a year, they can't leave Portugal. So I say we work on retention rate to keep them in Portugal. So the retention rate is very high to keep these talented people in here, but it's exactly not very funny for these people.
Well, 1 year for a visa is, well, I will not comment on that. But talking about a lot to say about that. But I won't. I won't say it. You have to say it, not me. I'm just a moderator. Let's talk about investment. As you know, when you look at investors in the Portuguese ecosystem, most of them are foreigners, are from abroad, and they focus at not really, well, the Portuguese has some problems when they have those in series A, B, whatever, to invest. So we are basically fed, and probably I'm being not very kind on this analysis, but the foreign investors are basically putting in the startup ecosystem, feeding the startup ecosystem, sorry. So how we can change that? How can we help, create new sources of investment for the startups and for scale ups and, to go to unicorns?
It's a question for some years, actually. However, we could help to stimulate to create crowdfunding platforms and regulations and how we can protect investors on that also. So the community inside Portugal, the normal people will also understand why is government and why are startups surging and what benefits they can bring to the economy. Secondly, we could help to enhance private and public partnerships between investment funds. We could help, we have the Web Summit, which is a big party in November for all the investors coming, but maybe we could work more on guiding them to have more offices in Portugal, because Portugal needs more visibility. We're not a tail of Spain. I have a lot of friends who invest in the community and they say, oh, we have offices in Madrid, it's so close to you. And I'm like, yes, but Portugal is a different ecosystem. We're a different community culture. And we are actually right now a very hot startup hub community. So we could enhance visibility of Portugal through going to more global network events to explain what is happening in Portugal, all the good things in Portugal, and then bring this growth scale also funds into here. The second thing would be to help unicorn, probably Portuguese, or if you can, and other cultures, to have a hub here in Portugal of innovation, so we can have industry leaders helping and supporting the scale-ups here in Portugal.
Okay, you have any more thoughts on this? Or I'll just ask Alexandre.
And the second thing is actually Portugal is an amazing country because it connects the Americas, Europe. We're so strategically positioned to be. And Portugal, also a lot of companies use Portuguese community and country to test new products and new solutions. So maybe we could enhance small growth scaling programs in helping Portuguese startups not to go global since they want to grow somewhere, but focus on a scaling process also here with corporates and who are willing to innovate and give visibility to this transition of innovation between Portuguese small startups and big corporates.
Okay, Alexandre, I'm not sure if you heard everything Milana said about how can we help the investors to help the ecosystem, you know, getting more financing. You have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, why not change the startups law and make it easier for founders to give back and start rolling as business angels? Why not work on work taxation so that people can start investing and that we actually create an incentive for that friends, family, and fools idea that plays so well in the US, but not in Portugal because we are still poor. Why not improve taxation on work so that we can create these small nudges and create new avenues of growth for the earliest ticket of all, let's say the first 100K, so that people can start working on their startup. So I definitely think that regulation plays a huge role there, and providing the right incentives and connecting the dots to make sure that these incentives are actually incentives and not just, well, good news on the newspaper, but that don't actually work on a daily life. So I would definitely focus on that because that might trigger many new investors to start learning how to do it and get some free space for the professional investors to do a better job. In the sense that we are now maturing also as an ecosystem in what comes to the expectations from investors. And this is quite volatile, actually. We are still complaining about smart money, for instance. And smart money in some of the industries in Portugal is really, really hard. And that's okay because this newborn ecosystem. So we need to be patient. But then again, we have a huge percentage of the population serving on different strategic roles worldwide in these industries that we need to capture to give back. And so that this happens, we need to create an infrastructure so that it actually is tactic for them to give back. Take the tourism, for instance. Suddenly, many people started investing in an additional house that they could explore as a small business on Airbnb. The same mechanics could be replicated to start funding new startups. People started doing it because they started seeing money coming in. So we need to close the gap here and close the story by connecting all the dots. This is something that I think we can do. Then we can be very intentional in welcoming new funds, worldwide funds that are by definition traveling along the world and trying to find new spaces to land. And we can be very intentional about making those big funds land here. What is our struggle there? We dwell with this idea of having big capital landing here. And we have this social idea that this is a bad thing, but we need to think and perhaps be more intentional about the spillover effects of having big investors, big funds based in Portugal, not only for the local ecosystem, but then again, to position us as a global platform for startup building. Well, there's a lot to be said here, and then I don't want to take the full time. So, Toni, if you want to add something.
Toni?
Yep.
You want to add something? How do you feel we could, improve the investment and the quality of investment in the Portuguese ecosystem and attract more investors?
Yeah, that's a good question. Not an easy question. I think it's all about the projects. If you have a great project, I think you find better the opportunity. In Fundão, I'm going to talk about Fundão, but in Fundão we have some strategy to bring funds. We are in the interior of Portugal, so the government have classified Fundão like the interior of an interior region. So we are lucky. We are a lucky town. And we have some opportunities Lisbon and Porto don't have, and other big cities. And I think it's looking for the answer to find benefits and investment. It's all about the work and the plan you have right and believe in this plan. And I think with the time you're gonna have this benefit. Not looking, but with hard work, I think it's possible. It's in Portugal. People, we are in Portugal. Yeah, but Portugal, it's an opportunity. I talk a lot with Brazilian colleagues, and they use Portugal like an open door to Europe. So I think it's things like that, create this opportunity and aproveitar.
Take advantage.
Take benefit, yeah, with this kind of opportunity.
Okay, Milana, Alexandre has mentioned as an example of bringing big capital to Portugal, the example of local, how you say, local residency, IL. As you know, the Golden Visa, the government has the intention of ending this tool, this investment tool. Do you think this will have any sort of impact in the ecosystem in terms of the investment that it brings, or we need a new Golden Visa specifically for the ecosystem and not really focused on real estate?
A Golden Visa was actually a very good program that brought a lot of investment from into Portugal and built a reputation of an interesting country to these investors. Maybe the approach that it was announced to an end very abruptly was not the best approach, because it always affects the reputation of a country of doing something back in day date, and then it was regularized. However, I believe we have so many like green visas. We have ecological poverty in Portugal, so we have so much space for clean tech, from green tech, for climate tech. We have an ocean blue economy, which is so rich, and we have so many interesting new segments to invest in. So I think if we will all give our contribution on that, we can build an alternative to a Golden Visa while still growing this investment ecosystem into Portugal.
Okay, Alexandre, how you think about that? Do you feel there's a need for a Golden Visa for the ecosystem, or we'll just end this tool that apparently has some sort of antivirus? If people look at this as a problem and not really something good for the country.
Well, I'm not the best person to comment on Golden Visa, but I struggle to make a decision on something that might now be abused but accomplished its goal. So Golden Visa was a framework to attract more investors to Portugal. Did that was achieved? Yes. Did they came to support the industry that somehow the framework was targeting? Yes. it was important at the time, as far as I know. Can we do any better? Absolutely. Then again, it's about the mindset of going to V2 rather than being binary about it. So being binary about it would put us on a position where we would frame it, was it good, was it bad? I think we need to focus on what kind of goal are we trying to achieve and how can we make sure that people stay here. Then again, I must stress this for me personally is about being competitive and being so aware of what other countries and cities or small ecosystems are doing worldwide. They are really aggressive. And if we are not aggressive with, say, a cornerstone framework that it's very easy to understand, very actionable, and this is important, then about the pace, about the bureaucracy, it has to be actionable. It has to deliver the promise. So I think that perhaps I wouldn't call it a golden visa, but perhaps a smart visa. The UK has recently announced a follow-up to the program of the, I don't really know the phrasing that they put, but the like high potential individual, something like that. And this is smart. Then again, you have not only a single criteria, like a certain amount of money that you want to put, you have several criteria that you have to accomplish. And perhaps if you fulfill those, why not?
So not something to be discussed in the V2 of the startup law.
Yes, let's please not be binary about it because it's really complex and I'm sure there's opportunities and risks. But my point is let's focus on small improvements that deliver value and that are very actionable so that we can quickly collect feedback on how to improve later again. Being binary about this seems like a bad decision to me.
Okay, let's talk about scaling up. And I'll ask Milana because you are one of the startups or scale-ups who are on the Unicorn Factory in Lisbon, in the landing and scaling up. Oh Jesus, scaling up program. Do you feel this is the way to help the ecosystem to scale up? What more can be done to help the ecosystem grow and expand abroad, which is the general idea?
Actually, the born of such soft program for scale-ups, it's a big step in our community because before, for a decade, we only had the early stage startup support, and then the scale-ups have just to leave. So right now we're having this program between helping these scale-ups to actually stay in Portugal, to explore at least opportunities, how we can improve Portugal, how we can internationalize in a best way. And this program had been fulcral for all the scale-ups to make informed decision, to receive all. It's amazing how the government and the City Council of Lisbon have been supporting, because it's extremely important to have the support of the governments to know that the startups are always with the same foot of the regulations. So the new startups surging need to be with the new regulations coming. So this synergy had been extremely valuable.
Do you feel, is this enough? I'm asking because, as you know, there, at least from what I know, Portugal Ventures has launched a call to expand. It has, it received 37 applications and its investment of around 34.5 million. Do you think this sort of funding to help Portuguese companies or companies that are headquartered here, despite the fact or not, you know, this, independently of the fact that they are Portuguese or whatever, do you think this sort of measure should be improved? Because as I know, it's apparently one of the few lines of investment to help you know, the companies to do the step abroad.
I believe it's a very important part, helping Portuguese companies to go international. Of course, more can be done. We can have a program that will help to explore the different go-to-market strategy, localization, the opportunities, a much bigger support to the startups of the local ecosystem, and at least to maybe understand what are other accelerators in more evolved mature ecosystems, what is happening there, to establish context also with this network, and to help startups to connect them with key industry leaders, with local stakeholders, with acceleration programs. But again, I believe that Portugal has been used a lot for innovation of a lot of at least FMCG companies too. Maybe we could also promote corporate innovation with the scale-ups inside Portugal. I think there's a lot of work to be done, but we are on the right path, and we have the support of the local government, which is extremely important for any ecosystem.
Alexandre, any thoughts on this? More scaling up programs? Jesus, I can't really say this. Scaling up programs or investment lines to go abroad? What do you feel is the next step, or should be the next step?
All the above.
Okay. Any extra?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when we talk about scaling up, we can play games with founders. Scaling up is really hard. Our funnel of founders don't get to that stage even, so that's already a concern. For those that achieve to find product market fit, start hiring, close a Series A or something, it's really hard. And we have very low empathy with those people. They really struggle in paying bills, paying taxes, and being somewhat in between being a company and a startup. And this is really challenging. So when we talk about supporting scale-ups in Portugal, the first thing that comes to my mind is that we need to be braver. Being brave here means that we need to accept that perhaps we will do some mistakes, but we need to fulfill the dream of having an ecosystem, start playing some big bets. And playing some big bets means that we won't spread our investment, our incentives across every single founder in the ecosystem, but that we will develop a very professional, very sharp lens of investment to decide on who to invest further. And for those that go beyond this, they need real money. And real money is not by the Portuguese standards, it's worldwide standards. And we need to be brave to do it. And this is not popular, and it's really risky. So on the other hand, we need to understand why not people are doing it right now. So this mindset of doing big bets is key for the future of the ecosystem. At some point in time, we will need to start developing some specific expertise in the different cities. It doesn't make any sense at all to compete between the different cities in Portugal, but our cooperation internally needs to improve. Then you have all the hard management topics that will definitely play a role in helping these startups go to a stage where they actually grow. And this has to do a lot with having access to talent. And there's a whole conversation about academia, crisscrossing skills to these startups and providing the right access to expertise in the areas that these scale-ups actually hire. And also, I'm sorry to say, again, taxation. We need to be obsessive with this idea that it's better to stay in Portugal than to leave. I think that things are better now, but we need to make sure that we are allocating the right resources to create the incentives so that people stay. And nowadays, we are not even competing with other countries or ecosystems. We are competing with this post-national digital ecosystem where I can work from home to any place in the world, any company in the world. You don't actually know in this moment if I'm founding an Estonia-based startup. You have no way of knowing it right now, but it's super possible. And guess what? some of the most well-known startup founders in Portugal are actually considering that. So I think we have a soft layer of analysis here. So building the ecosystem, building the right people, providing access to customers, opening up doors internationally, helping people understand about regulation, compliance, hiring, and all the topic around market access. But then we have this very super hard, super stiff management challenges and what come to attract and retain people. So we need to start working on the startup employee experience in what comes to taxation and work regulation. And there's a whole culture of how we work that it still doesn't fit quite well on the law.
Wow. I think that's a good sum up of the challenges ahead. I think we have some time to, I think 10 minutes to open up the questions to the room. If you want to ask some question, hands up, and someone will bring the microphone. You have to say who you will want to answer the question, and also either from the floor or from Oporto. So feel free to ask your questions. Any questions? And please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Sorry. My name is Sara. I have a company. I have a consulting company, and I have the mission right now to explain the importance of strategic planning in the corporate world, including startups. And one of the things that I've been struggling with is actually the entrepreneurial skills from our founders, mainly the skills that are needed to actually manage a company, right? And I've listened to you more than once. I've been into another event. And one of the questions that I have, and it's for the floor, and it's also for Alexandre, it's we're talking about attracting and retaining talent. How do we increase the capacity and the skills of our entrepreneurs and our founders so that they are more capable of managing companies and actually bringing them to another level, so that they don't rely only on the work that it's being done by external elements, right? So that they have those skills. And just to give an example, for example, how do we approach universities? How can we do that? And how can we incorporate that into the future plans?
Okay, Milana,
thank you.
Would you like to start?
Thank you very much for your question. Well, first of all, we have a cultural mindset to work on in Portugal. We have to explain that even failure is a learning experience. So we were the Era dos Descobridores for a lot of time, and with this big achiever goals. And right now we have to stimulate young people to take the risk. And what Alexandre told, how we can help these young entrepreneurs to take the risk, is everything that I support. Develop some skills that failure is okay. It's a learning experience. You will fail, but you will succeed one day. And it's like an MBA by doing. The second one is probably we can create with universities some controllable environments when you can launch pilots and programs along with corporates. So we can empower to show them that, okay, so there are some problems, or even the corporates who told us we have some innovation we would like to be done. Who would like to have this acceleration program in developing this or this kind of feature, or this kind of innovation? So we have to put the corporates, the startups, and the universities working together. And more than time, universities are very theoretical. So promotion of internship programs, acceleration programs, take them to startup world for internships for the summer is an amazing moment to show them, okay, how the work is actually done. So you'll not will be just follow someone, you'll actually be given work to be done, and you will have to develop these skills. You have no way to do it other way.
Alexandre, would you like to add something?
Yeah. I must say that I have a prejudice with this failing story around startups. obviously it's part of the game, but what if we could challenge the success rate? So I've been dedicating my life to make knowledge and expertise more accessible so that startups fail, but not for reasons that we could somehow prevent. And I strongly believe that we can prevent some of those reasons. And we should acknowledge those reasons and act. For instance, when I was a director at Startup Braga, we started working with the University of Minho there to create the School of CEOs. The tweet pitch would be something like a super mini MBA, so that the CEO could learn the management principles and cover what needed to be covered there to understand how to manage their company. It was very successful. I believe that it's still rolling year after year. And I think overall, we need to listen to founders, bring them on board, understand their needs, and be entrepreneurial ourselves as ecosystem builders, as stakeholders, or institutions. I think it's pretty possible to start building new, say, informal setups where people get to learn. For instance, this was the case of the School of CEOs, of several other business schools that are trying to target founders. But for instance, personally, I run a few communities of founders that learn from each other. And we meet every single month and discuss our problems, or sometimes we narrow or put the spotlight to a specific startup issue, and we try to help. Then we have dinner together. So we also learn in this formal way. On the other hand, I must say this out loud. If nothing else, let's please try to start solving on a transformative way universities and entrepreneurship. We need to boost the ecosystem by providing new ways, new resources, a new life for the technology transfer offices out there. And we need to make sure that the IP is managed from day zero and actually put at the service of those startups. There's too many startups that don't exist nowadays because of the agreement that was never signed. And this is something very easy to frame, very hard to solve, but definitely we need to put more effort in solving it. So to wrap up my intervention, I would say, yes, there are things that we can do to help founders. We should do it. Specifically, something that we might address is helping a founder understand when to look for help, when to hire an external advisor, how to ask for that help for a board member, for instance. And then we have to work with board members, namely investors, specifically the more financial investors that you can think of, and introducing this idea that there's a whole ecosystem out there, and perhaps there's already people that went through the same experience or struggle or issue. Something very positive about having this conversation in 2023 rather than in 2010 when I started was that nowadays we have plenty of role models, plenty of people that we can reach on LinkedIn or on WhatsApp or Telegram to ask for help. People like us that were sitting in these events years ago and suddenly they became really successful, or at least they are trying. Then I think that the ecosystem needs to mature by itself. Us at Subvisual, for instance, are trying to play a role in the ecosystem by acting as a venture studio And this means that we manage a certain expertise in a very technical topic that we hope to benefit the founders with who we work, so that we can increase the pace, the speed, and again, the success rate of those startups in going to the market. So I think that there are still actions that we can put in place, people to leverage. And also, I would like to end with this idea that with recent talent influx coming to Portugal, we don't even know how important many of those people are. So we have plenty of new people coming to our events, and we need to give them a voice so that they can also let us know how they can help. And I'm super bullish on this idea that having this intersection of knowledge will be super positive, and that having more international teams being built from Portugal will be super beneficial for the ecosystem.
Yeah, I just want, I apologize. I will just add the thing that the importance of the community of like-minded people who will support you. Because when you start a business and you're a founder, it can be a very solitude path, because you're doing and creating something which your family is like, why don't you just do what you're studying for? And the community should be not so fragmented as it is. And the support of this community network can leverage also these skills, because you will be inspired by others.
Okay, there's another question.
Hello, I'm Reza, CTO and founder of a company called Prixmon. It's all about machine learning and AI. I moved to Portugal since last year, and I want to share you just my own experience. Maybe it would be helpful for the for the next laws. First, if I want to share my background and my experience, the first, the CEF is the problem. It's not, maybe it's like a suicide for me to talk directly, but we have too much problems with CEF. First, if I want, as an entrepreneur, I have a company since 20 years ago in different countries, United Arab Emirates, in Malaysia, and also I'm from Iran, and also it's from my own country. But the problem is, imagine it's really hard to bring my talent people here. I spent thousands of euros to train these people. And also imagine the embassy of Portugal in Iran just opens 20 slots for 20% for school visa, for entrepreneurs, for even digital nomad is not accessible at all in my country. So imagine I spend years of training, money and time to train the employees, and it's really hard to work with them remotely. This is the first issue. The second issue, since last year, when I moved to Portugal, I just met my family for 1 month. I have 2-year-old son, and imagine this is the best time of his life, and I'm far from him, and even I cannot ask for a tourist visa to be with him for just a couple of weeks. This is the second issue, and also I'm still calling the CEF every day to, even in these days, they do not answer me. Let me share my experience about the issues in Portugal. We made a project which is all about machine learning and AI in agriculture industry. We started to look around in Portugal to find some clients, but because we are foreigners, it wasn't easy for us to. I'm not telling there is not customers here, but due to lack of, if I want to be direct, we have to teach the people how to use the technology. So we decided to move to introduce our project to other countries. We went to Germany, we went to Italy, we went to France to find some partners over there to start to work with them as a Portuguese company to sell our own products. one of our issues was the legal problems. You know, we signed an NDA with Italian company, and after 2 months, they started to use our machine learning model and as you know, the model is the core of the machine learning engine. And even when we have NDA contract with them, they are using our own models and technology. It's all about the kiwi, and maybe later I can explain how we solved the problem with pest attacks of kiwi in Italy. So right now they are using our platform and our idea, but even they directly tell us you can't do anything, and okay, go, and the conversation was failed at the end. So us as entrepreneurs, as startups, we need legal help of the Portuguese government. Please keep in your mind, as a startup, we need it. And the others, if I want to be the legal part, that's it. Another question. Sometimes I cannot find human resources which is useful for my project over here in Portugal, or maybe it's not easy to train the people. I have to hire them from other countries. There is no guarantee to keep them over here. You know, imagine it's not easy process, and it's not easy task to bring the people, the technical people from abroad to the country. And then maybe within a few weeks, within a few months, they are moving to another country. They are moving to Germany, France. And I think this is one of the most important part, which you have to think about it. Maybe some sort of national visa for 1 year, at least we can keep them, we can count on them to keep them in the country for 1 year. There are too many things. Sorry, I'm talking too much. And it was all of just my own ideas and just my own comments. Thank you.
So I'm guessing you're just sharing your experience. You don't have a specific questions for. I think we have time for one more. For Porto. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, hi. I already presented myself, so maybe you can start by the question. I think we should talk about AI, especially if we are thinking about 2023, 2026. And I think it goes really well with what have been said, which was attracting talent, keeping them here. France announced 25 unicorns until the end of 2021. I think it was their goal, and they did it. Since then, no unicorns basically in Europe, maybe Germany, I don't know. This month, a new one, Mistral AI in France. They basically picked up on 2 guys from Meta and Google, I think. They brought them to France. 4 weeks after, they were in unicorn. I mean, I'm not saying about valuations now. I'm just saying they attracted talent. The strategy of UK to attract for AI, it's huge. It's millions and millions. We talked a lot about the bazooka, whatever that is in English. And we didn't talk about AI until now. I mean, it mentioned now. I think we should. I think it should be on the plan. And I think we should start looking at what the other big countries are doing. Because if we have that potential, because if the universities have the potential, I don't know who has that potential, but AI should be one of the focus, should be on the list at least. I don't know if what you have in your mind, I know that you know a lot of startups, they are thinking about AI, everyone is, but the plan for Portugal to bring AI should be very strong, just like the others are doing, I would say.
Wouldn't it be wonderful to have AI implemented at CEF? Just keep this idea.
Just a tip.
Just wonder for a second. Well, I didn't I was not alluding specifically to AI briefly when I was talking about big bets, but I'm fine with whatever bet. I might have opinions on it. And what comes to what kind of vertical are we focusing on? Mature ecosystems do this. So biotech happens in specific places. whatever other tech happens in other places. This is why I was mentioning that we need to be brave to do these strategic bets. We might bet on building an AI cluster. There were some actions being put in place, like the quantum computing efforts and the strategy behind it to Portugal. And I believe there's also a strategy for AI, but I'm not sure. This might already be a problem. And I think that AI goes beyond that. AI will soon become ubiquitous, and more than a startup vertical that we can explore, I see as perhaps the wizard that might help us modernize the country, the tools, and the experience here. So that we suddenly leverage the right tools, and with the right automation, we can have a better experience and more efficiency. As for verticalizing or creating a cluster or a specific incubator to dedicated to AI, personally, I would like to see it just because it's a verticalized bet. You could be saying nanotechnology or, I don't know, digital health. My point is, whatever bet it is, we should play that game meaningfully. And on the other hand, I would like to highlight something that I believe it was Milana that said before. We have a huge sea coast, a lot of opportunities there. And as far as I know, it's perhaps one of the clusters where we did, I'm not sure if even the minimum there. We are still starting. And this is an opportunity, and sadly also a challenge, just like the gentleman before us was mentioning. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, but he's also one of the first generations moving to Portugal. And this is beautiful, but very challenging for those that are here and are experiencing this real life pain. So to wrap up, I'm fine with AI. I think it's ubiquitous. We should all have an AI strategy for our daily lives. When it comes to create a specific cluster in Portugal, let's go, take my money, because it's a strategic bet, and that will help us increase the odds of success and being intentional about it.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Sorry.
In Porto, we have another one.
Well, I think that's with Startup Portugal. If we have, okay, let's take two questions.
Can we have two? Hi, my name is Catarina, and I moved to Portugal a year and a half ago from Canada. And I founded a company here that brings international startups to Portugal and investors as well. And so we work with sustainable technology companies to bring them here. I don't see any struggle in bringing the startups here. We see more struggle in keeping them here, helping them get the support so they can, in a health way, they can actually scale up and grow here. And I do have a question at the end, but I just want to share a little bit. I think this might be helpful as well, because I have been working for the Canadian government for more than 7 years in Calgary and Toronto as well, building the ecosystem to support startups, SMEs, help them actually become big enough so they can self-assess themselves and go on the international market. And so my question for the panelists here is really, what information have you been collected from the startup ecosystem and industries to integrate that into your decision-making system so you can actually build the resources, not just the resources, because I think Portugal has a lot of great resources to support the startups. I think the problem is in execution and implementation, and also in the system. Somehow in my mind, we can't close that system. We can't close the circle when we implement the resources and the systems to help the startups fill in the forms, get actually that full support. So again, to go back to the question is, what information you have collected from the startups in order to make the best possible informed decision. How can you help all those companies and businesses to stay here and help the country as well? Because we know that that's really the end goal.
Okay.
Anybody from the panelists can help.
Anyone? Milana?
So we have had this scaling problem of the unicorn factory, who had been bringing startups also not from Portugal to here, and have provided resources and helping to access to these resources. However, as you said and well, we have some resources that are available, but the access to information, the bureaucratic process to get these resources are a struggle process. So answering to you, we need to work on digitized tools, on helping to have a centered, unified community will help everyone to get to these resources. You know, we have the example of a more mature ecosystem as the UK is, and they have these resources and exactly tell you the resources as that. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, how you can get it. And we don't really have it yet in Portugal. It's still very bureaucratic. It's still more associated to governments. It's amazing and incredible. They are building these resources, but the access to them is not very easy. So answering to your question, I think we have to collect this information and start to provide it in an open source way and have a dedicated team. And we can talk to Startup Portugal as a community and help to gather this data who would be interested in it and all together create it. It's not only one hub or someone solely have to do it. We have all to do it. You know, as the colleague with the staff, it's so, I apologize, so valuable contributions that everyone's giving, and we have to help it together, you know.
Alexandre, you want to add something?
Yeah, Katarina, right? It was your name, was it? I believe so. So I think you got yourself an invitation for a future event here at Startup Portugal. I think your experience and insights would be very beneficial to the discussion here. As far as I know, this is a national pain in what comes to manage data or large data sets, and actually our decision-making processes always struggles with that kind of sources. Having said that, I would highlight the National Incubator Network. I believe it's yearly, not semester, right? Yearly, I would say. That tries to aggregate some of the main data points. And some of the most active investors in Portugal have been trying to compile these data sets so that we can actually have better visibility of what's really happening in the ecosystem here. Having said it, I would say that that is a massive opportunity to improve in the sense that we still have several sources that are scattered somehow. And let's say that interoperability of those sources to have a more aggregated visibility that could leverage decision-making definitely still needs improvement.
Okay, I think Antonio wants to add something.
Just jump in on this question because it's an important one. And to add that we currently have a mapping tool to resources and to the Portuguese ecosystem. We have Deal Room that can be publicly and freely accessible through Startup Portugal site. Nevertheless, we think that we can improve on that side, and we launched recently, 1 month ago, a public deed for development of a new mapping tool for the ecosystem and an international procurement deed. And we are designing with our needs, so it will be tailored to our needs in Portugal, and it will include all the information coming from Deal Room and from other sources of information all around the world, like Crunchbase, PitchBook, and others, that will enrich and that will make it more rigorous and more, more valuable to whoever wants to know about the Portuguese ecosystem. So that's going on. And we hope that in 2024, we'll have some news on that side.
Okay, there's a final question, and it's from Oporto. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is João Silva. I'm from Startup Portugal. So we keep in the same team. What I would like to ask is just probably a bit an exercise of a bit of futurism. Is for you to make a view into 2026, and if you could change one thing, just only one thing, and not change CEF, just to make it a little harder, what would you do to make the Portuguese entrepreneurship ecosystem better for 2026? It's for all. Just
Okay, Alexandre, would you like to start?
Well, I'm not sure, but the first thing that comes to my mind is that we need to reignite the national entrepreneurship narrative, building up the national discourse, a positive national discourse about risk, about being entrepreneurial, being innovative, and eventually this will trigger new startups, enable researchers from our very good academia to leverage their knowledge to create new companies and support, as a consequence, the strategic bets that we need to make in the coming years, so that we also have a positive impact on scale-ups. Without this national narrative creating momentum for entrepreneurship, I'm not sure if this is going to happen as successfully.
Toni, you want to add something?
I agree, but CEF it's a big problem, and startup fees also it's a big problem. It takes too long to take a visa to come to Portugal, and I think we must change that fast. I think 2026. Nice question. I think we're gonna need a lot of housing, not just in Lisbon and Porto. We have the same problem in Portugal. Housing it's a big problem in this moment at Portugal. If we want to bring talent and people with new skills, and like you say, I think a real problem it was the price of the housing and the housing, and yeah, another problem we have it's the talent. We need IT people. We don't have IT people in Portugal, so I think if they are a miracle, a big solution. Let's find this solution.
Okay, Milana, you have the honors of ending. So we already heard about the CEF problem, the housing. So if you had a choice, what would be the one thing you would change?
If one thing, I believe the key leaders of our ecosystem has to have more presence in the innovation part with startups. Additional and more diversity of different startups, food tech, clean tech, biotech. We have to make meaningful strategies for each of this. And even if we start as an early stage startup, early stage support for these different domains, we will see some results in 2026. And I believe that a much stronger, not fragmented community of support from all the members, government, corporates, innovation, universities, we all together have to create this community network. And in 2026, the interest has to be easier. Innovative people who we can contact through LinkedIn, through different other interest sources should be achievable, and they have to be a part of the startup ecosystem. And expect in 2026, we will have that. And not only in Portugal, but to connect with also key leaders from other countries, so they can come to Portugal and be an example and be an inspiration and give you support and help you to understand what are the innovations that are needed in Europe. Thank you.
Okay, that was it. I'm sorry, we can't have more questions. Probably the next hangout, we'll talk. You have the opportunity to have your questions. Well, that's with Antonio. He does the schedule of the hangouts. So thank you for being here and for your questions, and also for the participants of this hangout in Lisbon, Milana, and Oporto, Alexandre, and also Toni. Thank you for being there and sharing your views. Until the next Hangout. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Anna, you did a really good job. I just wanted to say a really big thank you for everyone that was here with us. A special little hug to Luis Santos from Inovagaya there in Porto, and Fahim and Sina, another two Iranian entrepreneurs that chose our country to build their business and to grow. And yes, CEF is a big headache. Hopefully we can find an AI solution for this. And I don't want to go without leaving this invitation for all of you. This Thursday, 3 p.m., Startup Portugal is organizing a webinar about this new startup law that you're all invited to join. It's online, so you don't need to take a bus, don't need to take your transportation. We have a very good group of specialists: Bruno Alves from PwC, Vasco Azevedo from Quatro Casas, Tiago Abad from PwC Legal, Paula Ping from KPMG, Marisa Lousada also from KPMG, and Luís Roquete Geraldes from the Genesis team. Moraes Leitão, Genesis team. Yeah, okay. So please sign up. The link is very easy. Just go to startupportugal.com. The banner is there. Just click, very easy. And feel free to join us on next Hangout, almost always on the last Wednesday of every month. Thank you very much. Have a great week and stay positive.
Woo-hoo.